Something devastating is happening to men right now. Millions of them are walking around thinking they're in love when they're actually in crisis. They can't sleep properly. They check their phones obsessively. They feel constant anxiety about where she is, who she's with, what she's thinking. Their stomachs churn, their hearts race. They feel alive in the worst possible way, and they've been told this feeling, this emotional chaos, this psychological warfare, is what love is supposed to feel like. This is perhaps the most damaging lie modern men have been sold. That emotional turbulence equals passion, that anxiety equals attraction, that the relationship keeping you up at night is somehow more real, more intense, more valuable than one that lets you sleep in peace. Millions of men are destroying themselves chasing a feeling that's actually just their nervous system screaming for help. And the women creating this chaos, they've been told they're passionate, intense, exciting, when the truth is simpler and darker. They're unstable, and men have been programmed to mistake instability for desirability. Let me tell you what's really happening. From the moment men are young, they're fed a steady diet of romantic narratives that glorify emotional chaos. Every movie, every song, every story tells them that real love is supposed to hurt. It's supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to consume you entirely. The calm, stable, peaceful relationship? That's boring. That's settling. That's what you do when the spark dies. But the relationship that has you crying one day and euphoric the next? That's passion. That's real. That's worth fighting for. This programming runs so deep that most men don't even question it. They meet a woman who makes them feel unstable, insecure, constantly off balance, and they think they've found something special. Their friends tell them she's a handful. Their family sees the chaos, but he defends it. You don't understand. What we have is different. It's intense. It's real. He mistakes the adrenaline of uncertainty for the electricity of connection. He confuses the cortisol spike of drama for the dopamine hit of genuine attraction. His body is in fight or flight mode constantly, and he calls it being in love. You see, women have learned to weaponize this confusion. Not consciously, not deliberately, but they've learned it nonetheless. They create emotional turbulence because they've discovered that turbulence keeps men hooked, push and pull, hot and cold, available then distant, affectionate then withdrawn. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. You never know what you're going to get, so your brain stays engaged, stays hoping, stays chasing the next hit of validation that might come or might not. I've watched this pattern destroy good men, men who had direction, purpose, clarity about their lives. Then they meet a woman who brings chaos, and suddenly everything changes. His focus fractures, his work suffers, his friendships deteriorate because he's always managing some crisis she's created. He stops going to the gym because she needs him. He abandons his goals because she requires constant emotional labor, and he tells himself this is what sacrifice looks like. This is what being a good partner means. This is love. But here's what nobody tells you. A man cannot build when he's constantly defending. He cannot create when he's constantly managing chaos. He cannot think clearly when his nervous system is always activated. Peace isn't the absence of love. Peace is the foundation for everything a man is supposed to become, and the woman who robs him of peace is robbing him of his potential, his purpose, his power. Think about this carefully. When you're with a chaotic woman, what actually happens to your life? You stop planning long-term because you're always putting out fires. You stop investing in yourself because all your energy goes to managing her emotions. You stop being decisive because you've learned that any decision might trigger the next crisis. You become reactive instead of proactive, defensive instead of assertive. You're constantly walking on eggshells, constantly calculating how to avoid the next explosion, constantly sacrificing your peace for her temporary satisfaction. And the cruelest part, she loses respect for you in the process. Every time you abandon your plans to manage her crisis, every time you sacrifice your peace to calm her chaos, every time you choose her instability over your stability, she sees weakness. She sees a man who can be controlled. She sees someone who will tolerate anything. And her biology responds exactly how you'd expect, by losing attraction, by creating more tests, by pushing harder to see if you'll ever push back. The peaceful woman, the one who adds to your life instead of subtracting from it, she gets ignored, she gets passed over, because she doesn't create that chemical rush of chaos. She doesn't make your heart race with anxiety disguised as excitement. She doesn't keep you up at night wondering if she's going to leave. She's stable, she's consistent, she's secure. And men who've been programmed to chase chaos see her as boring. They see her as too easy. They see her as a consolation prize for men who can't handle real passion. This is the inversion that's destroying modern relationships. Men are chasing what drains them and avoiding what would sustain them. They're pursuing emotional arsonists and ignoring emotional architects. They're choosing women who make them feel alive through constant crisis instead of women who make them feel alive through consistent peace. And they're doing this because society has convinced them that if it doesn't hurt, it's not real. Let me tell you about 2 types of mornings. Morning 1, you wake up and immediately check your phone. Did she text? Is she angry? What did she post? Who commented? Your stomach is already tight before your feet hit the floor. You're anxious before you're even conscious. The day hasn't started and you're already in damage control mode. This is the morning of a man with a chaotic woman. Morning 2, you wake up and feel rested. Your mind is clear. You know she's secure, she's stable, she's not creating problems that don't exist. You can think about your goals, your work, your purpose. You start the day with energy instead of anxiety. This is the morning of a man with a peaceful woman. Which man do you think builds a better life? Which man do you think achieves more? Which man do you think becomes the version of himself he's capable of becoming? The answer is obvious, but millions of men choose morning 1 because they've been convinced that morning 2 is boring, that it means the relationship lacks passion, that it means they've settled for less, when the truth is exactly inverted. The man in morning 1 has settled. He's settled for constant crisis instead of demanding peace. Women who bring chaos justify it as passion, as intensity, as being real. But watch what actually happens in these relationships. Constant arguments that go nowhere. Endless cycles of breaking up and getting back together. Drama that involves everyone around them. Jealousy that borders on paranoia. Tests that never end. Demands that keep escalating. This isn't passion. This is pathology. And men have been trained to tolerate it, to romanticize it, to defend it as proof of how much they love her. The peaceful woman. She's not creating problems to test your commitment. She's not manufacturing crises to see if you'll choose her. She's not dragging you into emotional warfare to prove your devotion. She's simply there, consistent, stable, supportive. She lets you be a man instead of forcing you to be a crisis manager. She adds to your peace instead of stealing it. She makes your life better instead of making it dramatic. And this is what men should be chasing. But most won't, because it doesn't trigger the addiction they've developed to chaos. Here's the double standard nobody addresses. When a man creates chaos in a relationship, when he's unpredictable, inconsistent, emotionally unstable, everyone correctly identifies this as toxic. Red flags everywhere. He needs therapy. He's dangerous. Stay away. But when a woman does the exact same thing, suddenly it's passion. It's being emotional. It's having standards. It's knowing what she wants. The man is told to handle it better, to be more patient, to understand that she's just intense. His chaos is pathology. Her chaos is personality. Think about what this programming does to men. It teaches them that their peace doesn't matter, that their stability is boring, that their calm is insufficient. It teaches them that to be loved, they must tolerate chaos. To be chosen, they must accept drama. To keep a woman, they must sacrifice their own mental health on the altar of her emotional instability. And millions of men are doing exactly this, wondering why they feel exhausted, depleted, hollowed out, wondering why they've lost themselves trying to keep someone else together. The man who chooses peace isn't weak. He's wise. He's not boring. He's building. He's not settling. He's selecting consciously instead of reacting emotionally. He understands that a relationship should be a force multiplier, not a force divider, that the right woman makes everything in his life work better. His sleep improves. His focus sharpens. His productivity increases. His goals become clearer. His energy is directed toward creation instead of crisis management. This is what a peaceful woman provides. This is what men should be demanding. But demanding peace requires something most modern men lack: standards, boundaries, the willingness to walk away from chaos regardless of how attractive it's packaged, the ability to recognize that butterflies in your stomach aren't always excitement. Sometimes they're your body trying to warn you. Sometimes that racing heart isn't passion, it's panic. Sometimes that constant need to prove yourself isn't her testing you for strength, it's her using you for validation. Let me paint you a picture of what peace actually looks like. It's coming home and not needing to brace yourself before walking through the door. It's checking your phone and feeling neutral instead of anxious. It's making plans and knowing they won't be sabotaged by manufactured drama. It's sleeping through the night because you're not worried about what crisis tomorrow brings. It's having mental energy left over for your goals instead of spending it all managing her emotions. It's being supported in your purpose instead of being guilted for having one. This is what the peaceful woman provides. She doesn't compete with your purpose. She complements it. She doesn't drain your energy. She preserves it. She doesn't create problems. She helps solve them. She doesn't make you smaller. She makes room for you to be bigger. and the man with this kind of woman becomes more than he could have alone, while the man with a chaotic woman becomes less than he was before he met her. Society won't tell you this. Society profits from your confusion. The movies, the music, the media, they all sell the same story. That dramatic love is real love, that the relationship without conflict isn't worth having, that the woman who doesn't keep you on your toes will bore you eventually. This narrative keeps you chasing chaos, keeps you tolerating intolerable behavior, keeps you believing that your suffering is proof of your commitment. And while you're suffering, while you're sacrificing, while you're slowly destroying yourself trying to stabilize someone who doesn't want stability, they're making money off your misery. The generational impact of this is catastrophic. Young men are watching their fathers live in constant tension. They're watching their brothers get destroyed by women who weaponize emotions. They're seeing good men reduced to shells of themselves, spending decades managing chaos instead of building legacies. And these young men are learning that this is normal. This is what relationships cost. This is the price of having a woman in your life. They're not being shown the alternative. They're not being taught that peace is possible. They're being programmed to accept emotional warfare as the price of intimacy. This creates a future where fewer and fewer men will even try, where the ones who do try will settle for whatever they can get, where standards continue to drop, where chaos becomes so normalized that peace feels alien, where men forget what it's like to wake up without anxiety, where building a life takes a back seat to managing a relationship, where potential dies in the constant crisis of romantic chaos. But here's what you need to understand. You have a choice. Every single day, you're choosing what you'll tolerate. Every time you accept chaos, you're choosing it. Every time you stay with someone who steals your peace, you're choosing them over yourself. Every time you prioritize her temporary emotions over your permanent well-being, you're making a choice, and that choice is shaping your life, your future, your potential. The woman who brings chaos will tell you that peace is boring, that stability is settling, that if you loved her properly, you'd tolerate her instability. She'll frame your need for peace as a failing, as weakness, as inability to handle a real woman. She'll make you feel guilty for wanting what every human being deserves, a life free from constant emotional turbulence. And if you believe her, if you accept her framing, you'll spend years or decades in a state of permanent crisis, wondering why you never became who you were supposed to become. A peaceful woman won't announce herself. She won't create drama to prove she exists. She won't test you to demonstrate she's valuable. She'll simply be there, consistent, stable, real. And if you've been programmed to chase chaos, you might not even notice her. You might walk right past her because she doesn't trigger that addictive rush of anxiety you've mistaken for attraction. You might choose the chaotic woman because at least she makes you feel something, even if what you're feeling is dread. This is the test. Can you recognize peace when it's offered? Can you value stability over excitement? Can you choose the woman who lets you sleep over the one who keeps you awake? Can you prioritize building over crisis management? Can you see clearly enough through your programming to understand that peace isn't boring, it's powerful, that stability isn't settling, it's strength, that the calm woman isn't less passionate, she's more secure? Most men will fail this test. They'll choose wrong. They'll pick the chaos. They'll tell themselves it's worth it. They'll defend their choice to anyone who questions it. And years later, when they're exhausted, depleted, reduced to versions of themselves they don't recognize, they'll wonder what happened. They'll wonder where their purpose went. They'll wonder why they never built what they planned to build, and they won't connect it to the choice they made, the choice to prioritize someone else's chaos over their own peace. Your peace isn't negotiable. It's not something you should be willing to sacrifice for anyone. It's not a luxury. It's not optional. It's the foundation of everything else you're supposed to become. Without peace, you cannot build. Without peace, you cannot think clearly. Without peace, you cannot become the man you're capable of being. And anyone who demands you sacrifice your peace doesn't love you. They're using you. They're consuming you. They're taking what you need to survive and calling it love. The woman who truly cares about you protects your peace. She doesn't steal it. She doesn't test it. She doesn't create chaos just to see if you'll choose her over your own well-being. She understands that a man at peace is a man who can build, a man who can provide, a man who can protect, a man who can love properly because he has something left to give. She doesn't want a man running on empty, constantly managing her crises. She wants a man with full batteries, capable of being fully present because he's not exhausted from constant emotional warfare. This is the standard. This is what you should demand. Not perfection, not a woman without emotions, not someone who never has problems, but someone whose presence in your life adds more than it subtracts. Someone who brings more peace than chaos. Someone who makes your life work better, not harder. Someone who sees your purpose and supports it, instead of competing with it. Someone who understands that for a man to be his best, he needs peace. and she's willing to provide it instead of destroying it. Choose the woman who lets you sleep. Choose the woman who makes coming home feel like rest instead of entering a battlefield. Choose the woman whose text doesn't make your stomach drop. Choose the woman who doesn't need constant crisis to feel alive. Choose the woman who adds to your peace instead of stealing it. Choose the woman who understands that a man's peace isn't boring. It's the foundation of everything he'll build. Choose peace. Not because chaos isn't exciting, but because excitement without peace is just slow destruction, and you deserve better than that. I want to hear from you. When did you realize chaos wasn't love? What changed when you chose peace? Share your experiences in the comments. Your story might save another man from years of unnecessary suffering.